What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to Game Day with Trey. Of course, this is your host, Trey, and today we're going to talk about this Sunday afternoon NFL matchup between the Minnesota Vikings and the Houston Texans. All right, so this game is set to be played September 22nd at 1 p.m. East Coast time. Kickoff will be in Minneapolis, Minnesota, the U.S. Bank Stadium, and the line right now is Texans minus 1.5 over under 46, but there's some places where you can get it Vikings plus 2.5 and over under at 45.5. All right, so let's go ahead and let's take a look at this matchup. So the Minnesota Vikings are 2-0 this year after they defeated San Francisco by a score of 23-17 in their last game. Minnesota led 20-7 in the third quarter, and they were able to add a field goal in the fourth for the win. The Vikings outgained San Francisco by a total of 403 yards to 399, tied the turnover battle at 2, and went 7 out of 12 on third down in the game. Sam Darnold threw for 268, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, while Justin Jefferson caught 4 passes for 133 yards and 1 score. Now remember, he did catch a 97-yard pass from Sam Darnold, so that's where a lot of those yards came from. That's where that touchdown came from. A lot of the yards for Sam Darnold came from was all on that one play. Okay, when you look at that game, right, and you look at just some of the stats on how that game played out, Brock Purdy went 28 for 36 for 319 yards, 8.9 yard average, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He was sacked 6 times for 25 yards, QBR 47.5 with a rating of 101.3. Sam Darnold did his thing, 17 of 26 for that 268. He averaged 10.3 because of that one long pass of 97 yards to Justin Jefferson for that touchdown, guys. They didn't really hold Deebo Samuel down. He got off 8 receptions for 110. George Kittle got off 7 receptions for 76. Jordan Mason got off 20 carries for 100 yards. It was not as if the San Francisco 49ers didn't show up. You know, it's just that Viking defense held it down. Okay, because they had 13 total tackles from Blake Cashman. They had 9 from Von Pace out of Cincinnati a couple years ago. I've been told y'all about him. Stephen Gilmore, that signing that they made in the offseason, he came through with 6 tackles, 5 solo tackles, guys. They've added a significant amount of talent to this team in order to get to the position that they were in this game. That defense is what really held them down. Kyle Shanahan, he had no answer for them in the red zone, which we will talk about in a few minutes. Now, when we're talking about the Houston Texans, let me finish Minnesota first. So Minnesota also defeated the Giants by a score of 28-6 in their first game. So they have looked very good through 2 games. The Minnesota offense has scored 25.5 points per game with 229 passing yards and 128.5 rushing yards per game, while the defense has allowed 11.5 points per game this season. Now, the Vikings have gone 45.5% on third down and 1 for 1 on fourth down through 2 games. Sam Darnold has completed 72% of his passes for 476 total yards, 4 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions, while Aaron Jones has rushed for a total of 126 yards with 1 score. All right, now let's look at Houston real quick. So the Houston Texans are 2-0 this season after they defeated Chicago by a score of 19-13 in their last game. Houston was tied at 3 in the first quarter, but they scored 16 of the next 23 points to pull away for the win. The Texans outgained Chicago by a total of 310 to 205, won the turnover battle 2-1, and went 4 for 14 on third down in the game. Now, C.J. Stroud threw for 260 yards, 1 touchdown, while Nico Collins caught 8 passes for 135 yards and 1 score, which was, in my opinion, set off by when he got into it with dude after that first pass. After that first pass and he got into it with dude, to me, it was just a wrap. He kind of just took off on him from there. And to look at that game, all right, so we all know that the Chicago Bears defense is pretty good, guys. All right, I'm not saying that they're great, but they're pretty good. By holding a team like Houston to 4 for 14, that's showing something. All right, now, you did allow C.J. Stroud to go 23 for 36 for that 260. Okay, and Cam Akers, he didn't really do much. 7 carries for 32 yards, but that's because Joe Mixon got hurt early. And then Nico Collins took off. And the problem with this Houston Texans offense and facing it is the fact that they have so many weapons on that offense, man. I mean, whether you're talking about Cam Akers coming off the bench, Tate Dell they got out there, they got Dare Ogunwale, who can come off the bench and give you a little something, just a little spark. He can still block, he can catch, he can run when he has to. It's definitely a spark. You got Stefon Diggs, who is playing very unselfishly right now, in my opinion. I'm very shocked by it, but I'm not shocked by it because anybody can do something for a short period of time. I need to see this from him all season long. This is the person that we wanted to see in Minnesota. This is the person we wanted to see in Buffalo. It's got to be a team game. It can't be all about me, man. All right, it's got to be about we. All right, so when we're talking about just how Houston has been playing out there on the field, the Houston Texans defeated the Indianapolis Colts by a score of 29-27 in Week 1, but their defense did play much better in Week 2, as discussed. The Houston offense has scored 24 points per game, 219 yards passing per game, with 144 yards rushing per game, while their defense has allowed 20 points per game this season. Now, the Texans have gone 39.3% on third down, which is something they need to tighten up on. And they're 3 for 3 on fourth down so far this season. CJ Stroud has completed 69.1% of his passes for 494 yards, 3 touchdowns, while Joe Mixon has rushed for 184 yards and 1 score. So when you're looking at these two teams, you got to look at the injury report first, right? When you're looking at Houston, you still got Dameon Pierce. He's out. He's dealing with the hamstring injury and will not suit up against the Vikings on Sunday. Questionables, of course, Nico Collins is on there, hobbled with a hip injury. Unclear if he's going to play, but I expect him to play. Same with Dalton Schultz. He's got an ankle injury he's questionable with. He's managing, undetermined if he'll play, but I'm sure he'll play too. All right, Joe Mixon's questionable with the ankle. He left last game with the ankle injury, and he hopes to be ready to face the Vikings on Sunday. All right, not sure if he'll actually be out there. You know how them ankle injuries can be at times. Okay, the center, Juice Scruggs, he's questionable. Missed last game with a groin injury. It's unclear if he'll be ready to face off against the Vikings on Sunday. All right, and MJ Stewart, old Buccaneer. Shout out to the old Buccaneer, MJ Stewart, the safety. He's questionable with the knee injury, and unclear if he'll be out there for the game on Sunday. So when we're talking about Minnesota, of course, you got the rookie Dallas Turner. He is out with a knee injury. He left the last game with a knee injury and will not be featured in the lineup against the Texans. Von Pace Jr., guy brought up, he's also out with a quadricep injury, dealing with that he is not expected to take the field on Sunday. Jordan Addison's out. Okay, he's still dealing with that injured ankle and definitely won't be playing. Aaron Jones, questionable with the hip. He's hobbled by the hip, and it's up in the air if he's going to partake in the game on Sunday, but I'm pretty sure he will. Van Ginkel, he's questionable with the foot, nursing that foot injury, and it's uncertain if he'll partake, but I expect to see him as well. Brian O'Neill, the tackle, he's questionable, dealing with an elbow injury, and yet to determine if he'll be out there, but I expect to see him as well. Okay, Garrett Bradbury, the center, he's questionable, battling a knee injury, and it's up in the air if he'll be out there. I would think that he's going to be out there for this game. And when you look at the matchup, I kind of brought up what these guys were averaging already and what they've been doing already on the field, but let's go ahead and let's talk about it for a second. So we already know Houston's averaging at 24 points per game. That's 11th in the NFL, while Minnesota's giving up 11.5 points per game. That's the number 3 defense in the NFL. When you look at third down conversions, Houston's only converting at 39.29%. That's 15th in the NFL, middle of the pack, like I told you. But the Vikings are giving up to opposing teams 32.14%, so that's 16th in the NFL, man. And when you look red zone, when the Houston Texans get in the red zone, they put it in the box. They're number 3 in the NFL, converting 80% for a touchdown 80% of the time. Then you look at Minnesota, though, their defense is stifling. All right, if you get in the red zone, you're only scoring 28.57% of the time. That's the 5th best in the NFL. You're only going to get a touchdown 28.5% of the time, guys. Now, when we flip it and look at the inverse, Minnesota's offense is averaging 25.5 points per game. That's number 8 in the NFL, while Houston's defense is only giving up 20 points. Like I said earlier, that's 13th in the NFL, guys. But when you look at third down conversions, Minnesota's converting 45.45% of the third down conversions or third down attempts that they get out there. So that's number 7 in the NFL. And you look at Houston, Houston's allowing 40.74% of the opposing team's third down conversions on third down, man. Like, that's a problem. Then when you look at red zone, though, Minnesota's scoring 60% of the time they get to the red zone. They're number 7 in the NFL. And Houston, they let you score 75% of the time that you get to the red zone, man. So if you make it to the red zone on them, man, you gonna get in that box. And that could be a real problem when you're going to go against this Minnesota offense. Even though they're missing Jordan Addison, they still have Aaron Jones. They still have Justin Jefferson. And this offense has proven that it can formulate or can matriculate the ball down the field against a great defense. Like San Francisco's defense, to me, I consider them to be a great defense regardless of the injuries that they have out there. All right. Yeah, their scheme kind of slipped last year, but they did go back to the well, and they are supposed to be better this year. And in my eyes, the talent that they have out there is just it's unmatched in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? So they have a distinct advantage, and that's why there's no way on God's green earth that Minnesota should have done what they did, unless Minnesota might be real. And I'm gonna be honest with you, Minnesota, they win this week, or they even they cover this week. To me, that announces to the world that Minnesota is a real threat out there, and the NFC North needs to watch out. Detroit needs to watch out if Minnesota wins this game. I'm just saying. All right, and there ain't no shot at Detroit either. That's just calling it like it is. Sam Darnold will have turned his career around if they can win this game. Okay, so when we look at this over the season, okay, how these two teams have played, and you just look situationally, right? So situationally, we have 2-0 Houston versus a 2-0 Minnesota, so it don't matter the situation, they're going to win, or they have won, both teams. But then when you look against the spread, Houston is 0-1-1 against the spread, while Minnesota is 2-0. Now, Minnesota was getting points both times, so and they did win. You know what I mean? So that would essentially put them at 2-0 against the spread. Now, as an away or as a home underdog, Minnesota is 1-0. Okay, and as an away favorite, Houston is 0-1. That's something y'all want to take into account and understand, man. They did wrestle with the Colts in week 1, guys. All right, then you look over under. Houston is 1-1 as far as over under is concerned this season, and Minnesota is 0-2 this season. So that means Houston is 1 to the over and 1 to the under, while Minnesota is 0 overs and all unders so far this season in their 2 games. Don't matter the situation. That's what they're doing out there, guys. All right, so when you look at these two teams and you're looking at the last 10 times they were out there on the field, Houston Texans are 7-3 in their last 10 times out there on their field. They're 5-4-1 against the spread, and they're 4 to the over, 5 to the under, with 1 push in the last 10 times that they were actually out there on the field, guys. Okay, like I said, they got 1 over and 1 under this season. And if you look at their last 3 games going back to the playoffs last year, they're 2-1, and they're, as far as against the spread, they haven't covered a game since January 13th of 2024, and that was against the Cleveland Browns, guys, with Joe Flacco at quarterback. All right, just to give us some context. All right, now, because they pushed last week against the Chicago Bears. All right, and then when you look at Minnesota is 4-6 in their last 10 games, 4-4-2 against the spread in their last 10 games, and 5 to the over, 5 to the under in their last 10 games. They've had nothing but unders this season. Like I said before, they covered both. They've won both games. They played one bum in the New York Giants, and then they played a strong team in the San Francisco 49ers, and handled their business. So you have to respect that. Now, head to head, Houston Texans have never beaten the Minnesota Vikings. Never. Okay, last time they played was back in 2020, completely different teams, but they never beat them. All right, they lost 31-23 then Minnesota scored 31-13 back in 2016. They beat them 23-6 and back in 2012, and 08 they beat them 28-21. As far as against the spread, Minnesota always covers against them, and the games have gone 3 to the over, 1 under. All right, so it's definitely something to pay attention to historically, because at the end of the day, it might be a completely different team and completely different outcomes, but you have to look at the trends, man. I'm a strong believer in trends. All right, so when you're looking at the actual trends of how these teams have been playing, let's look at it. So the Houston Texans have hit the first half money line in 16 of their last 22 games, whereas Minnesota has hit the fourth quarter game total under in 13 of their last 17 games. The Houston Texans have hit the money line in 16 of their last 22 games, and the Minnesota Vikings have hit the second quarter money line in 10 of their last 17 games. The Houston Texans have hit the second quarter money line in 12 of their last 19 games, and the Minnesota Vikings have hit the money line in 12 of their last 20 games. Then when you look at the Houston Texans have covered the first half spread in 15 of their last 22 games, and the Minnesota Vikings have hit the second quarter game total over in 7 of their last 8 games at home. The Houston Texans have hit the fourth quarter game total over in 7 of their last 9 away games, and the Minnesota Vikings have covered the spread in 12 of their last 20 games, guys. All right, the Houston Texans have hit the second quarter spread in 13 of their last 19 games, and the Minnesota Vikings have only hit the fourth quarter game total over in 4 of their last 17 games, guys. All right, so just to go ahead and wrap this up for you guys, why the Texans have a good chance at winning this game. The Vikings have lost 14 of their last 15 games as underdogs following a home win. The Texans have won 3 of their last 4 games against teams that held a winning record. The Vikings have failed to cover the spread in 13 of their last 15 games as underdogs following a home win. The favorites have covered the spread in 4 of the Vikings' last 5 games. The Texans have scored the first touchdown in 4 of their last 5 games against NFC opponents. The Vikings have lost the first quarter in 4 of their last 5 home games against AFC opponents. All right, the Texans have won the first half in each of their last 4 games as favorites. The Vikings' last 6 home games in September have gone under the total points line. 5 of the Texans' last 6 September games as road favorites have gone over the total points line, and 3 of the last 4 Sunday games at US Bank Stadium have gone over the total points line, guys. All right, now as far as props are concerned, Justin Jefferson has scored a touchdown in 8 of the Vikings' last 9 home games against AFC opponents. Sam Darnold has recorded 268 plus yards in 3 of his last 4 September home appearances, meaning he shows up early in the season like this on a regular basis. Justin Jefferson ranks tied for first in the NFL in receiving touchdowns this season, and Sam Darnold has recorded 24 plus completions in each of the 3 previous September home appearances against AFC opponents. Joe Mixon, if he does end up playing, scored at least 1 touchdown in 5 of his last 6 Sunday appearances with his team as a favorite. Stephon Diggs has recorded 48 plus receiving yards in 14 of his last 15 Sunday appearances as a road favorite. And CJ Stroud has thrown 2 or more touchdowns in 4 of the Texans' last 5 games as slight favorites of 3.5 or less. All right. The Vikings ranked first in the NFL in sacks with 11 this season. The Vikings ranked tied for first in the NFL fourth down percentage, and the Texans are tied for first in the NFL in fourth down percentage with 100%. So they're tied with the Vikings and several other teams, guys. Both of these teams have started the season with 2 straight wins, but only one has covered both times. So they'll be trying to stay undefeated as far as the straight up is concerned, but somebody needs to clean up there against the spread. And the Houston Texans, all right, were expected to be very good this season. But Minnesota has been a pleasant surprise that a lot of people are shocked by, but I mean, yeah, I'm shocked by it too. I'm not even going to front on that, guys. I know their defense is like that, but come on, man. Sam Darnold. All right, so the Vikings blew the doors off the Giants. We knew that was going to happen. They snuck by the 49ers in their first 2 games. They're going to be full of confidence, and I think that confidence is going to get crushed. Houston struggled to score points against Chicago's defense last week, which shows me that they will struggle this week to score some points. But I expect them to bounce back. So if I was messing with this game with a spread, of course, with the spread, I'm going to have to take a couple points with the Vikings. I just think it's going to be a close game due to defense. I do like the money line Texans, though. That's when I'm going to lock in, or I have already locked in on some tickets, but I'm going to lock it in again on some other stuff that I might throw out there. And I'm probably messing with the under in this game, guys. Might buy a couple points, buy it up at 48 or something like that, just to, to guarantee it. But I don't know. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments. I hope this information does help you or assist you in making a proper decision. Y'all have a blessed day. Stay safe, man. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'm going to see you out the window. Peace.